I could make an argument that tonight is the biggest game in the history of the Nashville Predators. Now, that's debatable because they played in a Stanley Cup Finals last year, and certainly one might say, well, those are automatically going to be bigger. But it's win the Stanley Cup or bust for the Predators, for their momentum of growth as a franchise. And right now they go to Winnipeg and are down 3-2 in a best-of-7 series. The man that knows the Predators, perhaps as well, let's just say, if not better than anyone, is, of course, Alex Daugherty of OnTheForecheck.com. Well, the Predators did take Game 4 in Winnipeg, but that's the only loss the Jets have had this year in the playoffs at home. Alex, I want to ask, what makes Winnipeg a tough place to play, especially when we're reading all these stories about, well, you know what, home ice advantage in hockey playoffs really isn't all that big of a deal. It's about a 50-50 proposition, home and away, whether you win. Why do you think Winnipeg has been a tough place for opponents this year?
I think it's because of the style of play that they have on the ice, and in addition to being a very deep team, their style of play is a very high-scoring affair. They scored the most goals in the NHL this year. They have the highest scoring offense in the playoffs this year. And anytime you have that, you've got a chance to be in games. One of the themes for this NHL playoffs this year in 2018 has been teams that can score themselves out of trouble have been having success. So they get down early, they have a lead, they lose late. They can't stop anybody from scoring on them, but they can score goals themselves. Those teams are having success. Think about the Washington Capitals. You think about the Winnipeg Jets. You think about the Vegas Golden Knights. All of these teams have offense and players in offensive positions that can score in ways to catch themselves out of a hole in a game, and that's what they do so well. They do that better than anyone on their own home ice.
Well, now PK Subban, and I mean, he is the most outspoken member of the Predators, and he's being Ali. He's being Namath. He is guaranteeing a victory for the Preds up in Manitoba. We all know this. We love it when it works. When it doesn't, we kind of forget about it or even say, hey, you little foolish guy, you know, this sort of thing. But Subban guaranteeing the victory. Is he going to be Mark Messier? If you remember him in 94 doing the same thing for the Rangers in a similar Game 6 on the Rangers' way to the Stanley Cup that year? Or is it going to be more like John Tortorella, who, of course, guaranteed the Blue Jackets would beat the Capitals Game 6 just a couple of weeks ago, and that didn't pan out. What did you think of the comment?
Or maybe he'll be like, or maybe PK Subban will be like PK Subban was last year against Penguins when he won. He predicted 2 wins at home, Game 3 and 4, and that's exactly what happened. I like PK Subban's confidence here. I think that's huge. I think I expected nothing less. He has been by far the best defenseman on the Predators. I mean, he is head and shoulders above the rest of the defensemen who are all playing pretty terribly right now. Rome Yossi, the captain, is probably at the center of that target because he's been quite awful. I mean, just to be honest, him and Ryan Ellis have not been very good. PK Subban's been carrying the team defensively. He's got 8 points in 11 games in the playoffs, including 3 goals where he scored 3 straight. PK Subban is the only guy right now that I have trusted to actually go out there and produce and to back up his words. It's just a matter of whether the rest of the team can focus and play good defensive hockey to get them through to that Game 7 where they're going to need to go. So, I love the comment. I thought it was fantastic. I think that's exactly what the team needs to see is guys in positions of leadership on the team to speak out like that and say, you know what, we're confident in who we are right now.
I see that. I also remember, and I've talked to you about this before, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals last year, when I thought Sidney Crosby kind of won the Conn Smythe. It wasn't necessarily because of his scoring totals. When he basically roughed up behind the net of a lopsided game, PK Subban, and said, you're going to pick to win again in Nashville? Is that what you're going to do? I really thought that was a turning point of the series. But, we'll see what happens here tonight. And, it should also be mentioned, Subban, in the 2-1 victory, he had the power play game-winning goal. Now, admittedly, it made the score 2-0, but the way that game-winning goals are recorded in hockey, that is the game-winning goal. So he had, the deciding tally, if you will, in the Predators' victory up in Winnipeg in Game 4. So that's it. By the way, I am a little surprised that there isn't more home ice advantage in hockey. I look at it a lot like baseball when, that the home team's going to have an advantage since they're the last team up. And having the last line change also helps out a lot, I think. It's a similar type of rules advantage for a home team in hockey. But let me ask you this. Could it actually be overrated? Because, after all, you're responding to what the visiting team is doing with the line change. What are your thoughts on the last line change? How much of an influence is that for a home team, in your opinion, Alex Daugherty?
Well, in this particular series, I think it's been tough because the way that the Predators have tried to match up with the Jets is they've tried to go skill on skill, and when you do that, if the opposing team chooses to put their skill, first of all, the opposing team has a lot of skill, so you have to kind of pick which skill you want to go with. So if you put Ryan Johansson, who's the top Predators line, up against Mark Scheifele, who's been the top line for the Jets, and if that matchup just kind of eliminates each other and neither line does much, well, that's fine, but also your best line is not really producing then. And so then you've got to look down further on the depth chart and figure out, okay, well, Kyle Turris and Craig Smith, are they going to be able to score with Paul Stastny out there?
Mm-hmm.
So far, they haven't been. And so it's not been a matchup that's worked well for the Predators so far. I think there's a little bit to gain with home ice, but to be honest, I think in the playoffs, a lot of that goes out the window, and it's all about matchups when you're actually on the ice. Who can find advantages along the board? Who can sneak those small detail little, small passes that most fans can't see in and break in a guy so that he can get a better shot advantage. So I think that home ice is important, but the Predators have gone 3-3 in the playoffs. 500 hockey at home in the playoffs, and that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, let's see if they can get the victory and then make it 4-3 on Thursday would be a potential Game 7. I have a minute left. Now, when you're talking about line changes, the Preds did make a line change back on Friday, I believe. And could you tell us a little bit about how that impacted? Because there was only a 2-1 victory, but there was a lot of discussion on that. How did the line changes change the style of play for the Predators back in Game 4?
Well, they put Scott Hartnell in for Game 4, and I think his abilities maybe in the middle of the ice were a little bit better than Kevin Fiala, who hadn't played well in Game 3. And then they went back to Kevin Fiala in Game 5. A lot of people blame Kevin Fiala for that, but I think that's foolish because there was a huge mess going on in the middle of the ice for the Predators, and Kevin Fiala was not the only reason for that. So I think Scott Hartnell will get back in there tonight. And I think we also might see Calle Jarnkrok, who is the best defensive forward for the Predators. He's been injured. So if we might get him back tonight, that would be huge as well. So
he's predicting the line changes are repeated, that Hartnell comes back, and that there'll be better defense on the forecheck, right there. It is actually, that would be getting the puck on the forecheck, but I think you understand what I'm saying. You're trying to take the puck away from the Jets in their own zone. All right, I gotta go here. Media Watch on the Falls is next.